The day Earth was about to face its greatest threat, humanity had no idea that the key to survival was in their hands. For centuries, humans had been seen as weak and insignificant compared to the mighty alien empires that roamed the galaxy. Technologically, they were far behind the advanced civilizations that had conquered countless worlds. Humans were the underdogs, the ones who barely stood a chance against the sheer power of the alien forces. Yet, everything was about to change. In the quiet hum of a high-tech laboratory, Dr. Elena Bonner, one of Earth's brightest minds, had been working on a groundbreaking discovery. She wasn't like other scientists who focused on traditional technology. Elena was different. Her research was far beyond anything humanity had seen before. She was investigating the concept of probability, specifically how it could be manipulated to influence outcomes. What seemed like an abstract idea to most, Elena believed could be humanity's ticket to survival. Probability was a strange thing. It governed the very fabric of the universe, dictating the likelihood of events happening or not happening. Scientists had always known that chance played a role in everything, but what if they could control it? What if they could tip the scales in their favor and influence the outcome of any situation? What if they could predict or alter the future with precision? That's exactly what Dr. Bonner and her team were trying to achieve. After years of research, they had developed a prototype device, an unassuming piece of technology that, at first glance, seemed like little more than a sophisticated computer. But in reality, this device was capable of altering the course of events itself. It could control the probability of an event, making certain outcomes much more likely to happen than others. Dr. Bonner and her team were ecstatic. They had finally achieved what was once thought impossible, manipulating probability. The implications were staggering. If this technology worked as they hoped, they could change the fate of battles, influence the stock market, or even save lives in critical situations. But more importantly, they could level the playing field against the alien threat that had long loomed over Earth. But just as the device was ready for its first real test, news arrived that would change everything. A fleet of alien warships, unlike anything humanity had ever seen, was heading toward Earth. These ships were massive, bristling with advanced weaponry and cloaking devices that rendered them nearly invisible to human technology. The alien empire, known for its ruthless conquests of lesser civilizations, had set its sights on Earth. The message was clear: Earth was next in line to fall. As the alien fleet approached, fear spread across the planet. Governments scrambled to defend their people, but there was no real hope. Earth's military forces were no match for the advanced alien technology. Conventional weapons, lasers, and missiles would be useless against ships that could disappear from radar or launch devastating attacks from the shadows. In that moment of despair, Dr. Bonner realized that the technology she had created, the probability manipulation device, might be humanity's only hope. Could it be enough to stand up to the alien invaders? Could it truly change the outcome of the upcoming battle? Her heart raced as she looked at the device. It was small and unassuming, but its potential was immense. If they could use it to manipulate the probability of alien weapons missing their targets or their ships malfunctioning, they might just have a chance. But the stakes were high, and the risk of failure was enormous. If it didn't work, Earth would fall, and humanity would be lost. Dr. Bonner quickly assembled a team of the best scientists and military strategists she could find. Together, they began testing the probability weapon in controlled environments. They started small, making objects move with greater ease or influencing minor events in their favor. But each success brought with it more questions. Could they manipulate something as complex as a battle? Could they turn the tide in a war that seemed already lost? The suspense built as they prepared for the first live test. The aliens were only days away from arriving, and Dr. Bonner's team had to act quickly. The entire world was watching, hoping that this untested technology could truly be the game-changer humanity needed. The pressure was overwhelming. But Dr. Bonner remained focused. She had spent years of her life working toward this moment. This was their chance to make history. The test began in a secluded area, far from the eyes of the public. The device hummed to life as Dr. Bonner entered the coordinates for a small-scale simulation. The outcome they needed was simple, a direct hit on a target that, using the laws of probability, would have otherwise missed. With the press of a button, the device activated. The air in the room seemed to grow thick with anticipation. The first round of projectiles fired from a test machine, and, as if by magic, they veered off course, narrowly avoiding the target. It worked. The probability manipulation device had altered the course of the projectiles, making them miss their target. But it was only the beginning. If the device could do this for a single shot, could it do it for a full-scale battle? Dr. Bonner stared at the screen, the weight of her discovery settling in. The possibilities were endless, but so were the risks. If they used this device on a large scale, would it be enough to defeat the alien fleet? The aliens were not known for their mercy, and they would not hesitate to wipe out humanity if they saw any weakness. If Earth's military forces didn't fight back with everything they had, there would be no chance for survival. The countdown to the alien invasion was ticking down. The probability weapon had worked in small tests, but no one knew if it could withstand the immense pressure of an actual battle. Could humans manipulate the odds enough to defeat the alien empire's most advanced warships? As the alien fleet drew closer, Dr. Bonner and her team knew they had no choice but to try. This was humanity's last stand. It was all or nothing. Could the probability weapon really be their salvation, or would it fail when they needed it the most? The uncertainty was palpable, and with each passing hour, the pressure mounted. Earth was about to face its greatest challenge yet, and the fate of billions rested in the hands of a small group of scientists and soldiers, armed with nothing but a revolutionary new technology. The skies over Earth grew dark as the alien fleet drew closer. Huge warships, their sleek designs gliding through space like shadows, prepared to strike. The alien empire had come to conquer, as they had done with countless other worlds. Their ships were heavily armed, equipped with weapons that could wipe out entire cities in the blink of an eye. On Earth, the atmosphere was thick with tension. For the first time in history, humanity was about to face its greatest challenge, an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. In the heart of Earth's most secure military base, Dr. Elena Bonner and her team were gathered. The probability weapon, her brilliant invention, was now their last hope. After months of testing, tweaking, and refining, it was finally time to use the device in a real-world scenario. The stakes had never been higher. Dr. Bonner stood at the front of the control room, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the monitors. The team around her was silent, each person fully aware of the importance of the task at hand. They had seen the small victories of the probability weapon in controlled tests, but now, with the alien fleet on the horizon, they would have to place their faith in the device, and in each other. "Activate the device," Dr. Bonner said, her voice steady despite the rising anxiety in her chest. This was the moment of truth. The team worked quickly, connecting the probability device to Earth's defense systems. The weapons, shields, and strategic defense points around the planet would now be influenced by the manipulation of probability. It was a risky move, but there was no other choice. If it worked, they might stand a chance. If it didn't, well, Earth would be lost. With a deep breath, Dr. Bonner pressed the final button. The device hummed to life, its energy rippling through the systems. The team watched as the first wave of alien ships moved into position. The tension in the room was unbearable. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The alien ships remained on their predetermined course, their weapons aimed at Earth's major cities. The countdown to destruction had begun. But then, something changed. A ripple in the air, an unnatural shift in the fabric of space itself. The probability device was working. In a split second, the first alien ship veered off course. A ship of enormous size and power, the heart of the invading fleet, suddenly found itself drifting out of alignment with the rest. The ship's engines malfunctioned, sending it tumbling out of control. The probability weapon had altered the ship's trajectory, shifting the odds just enough to cause a fatal error in its navigation. It was chaos. The first ship crashed into the second one, sending a shockwave through the alien formation. The collision caused a chain reaction. Ship after ship veered off course, spiraling out of control as the probability manipulations continued to ripple through the fleet. The aliens had no time to react. It was as if the universe itself had turned against them. The human defenses were holding strong, but it wasn't the weapons that were making the difference, it was the power of probability. Dr. Bonner's heart raced as the reports came in. One by one, the alien ships were falling from the sky, crashing into each other or veering off into space. The sheer scale of the destruction was overwhelming. This wasn't just a defense system working, it was the weapon that humans had created, turning the tables on their enemies in a way no one had ever imagined. The control room erupted into cheers, but Dr. Bonner remained focused. It was working, yes, but there was still much more to do. The alien fleet wasn't completely wiped out yet. There were still dozens of ships in orbit, and they were regrouping quickly. The battle wasn't over. Not yet. But then came an unexpected twist. As the probability manipulations continued to disrupt the alien fleet, Earth's defenses, previously ineffective, began to work far better than expected. Lasers fired with deadly precision, striking alien ships at their weakest points. Missiles hit their targets with perfect accuracy, destroying shields and crippling engines. The alien weapons that were once capable of destroying entire cities now seemed impotent, their targeting systems malfunctioning at an unprecedented rate. The alien fleet's attack was faltering, its command structure thrown into disarray. Panic spread through the invading ships as their tactics failed them. Earth's military forces, once outmatched and outgunned, were now pushing back. The invincible alien empire, so sure of its dominance, was beginning to retreat. The probability weapon was doing what no one thought possible, it was shifting the odds in favor of Earth. But as the humans celebrated their unexpected victory, new, darker reality began to unfold. On one of the largest ships in the alien fleet, a figure watched in silence. Commander Valkar, the ruthless leader of the alien empire, stood in his war room, his cold eyes scanning the battlefield below. He had seen the reports. He had witnessed the strange, chaotic events unfolding in real time. The humans had found a way to manipulate probability. And it terrified him. Valkar had conquered hundreds of worlds, destroyed countless civilizations, and faced every possible threat to his empire. But this was different. This technology, this probability weapon, was unlike anything he had ever encountered. He knew that if the humans could control probability on such a scale, they would be able to turn the tide of the war. If they could manipulate the odds in their favor, they could defeat even the mightiest of alien forces. The balance of power had shifted. In the dark corridors of his flagship, Valkar summoned his generals. His voice was cold and calculating. "The humans have unleashed something dangerous," he said, his voice echoing through the room. "We underestimated them. This weapon must be neutralized. At all costs." He knew that Earth's victory, though significant, was only the beginning. The humans had shown that they could control probability, but they were far from invincible. The alien empire had dealt with threats like this before. They would find a way to adapt, to counter this new weapon. But it would take time. Time that Valkar was not willing to waste. The commander's mind was already racing with strategies, plans to counter the weapon and destroy humanity once and for all. The probability weapon was a powerful tool, but it could also be its own undoing. Valkar would stop at nothing to ensure his empire remained unchallenged. The battle for Earth was far from over. Back on Earth, Dr. Bonner and her team were still reeling from the victory. They had done the impossible. But they knew the truth, this was just the beginning. The aliens would regroup. They would come again, stronger and more determined than ever. Dr. Bonner looked at the device in her hands. It was small, almost unassuming, but its power was undeniable. As she prepared for the next phase of humanity's defense, she knew that the real battle had only just begun. And in the silence of the control room, one thought echoed in her mind: could the probability weapon truly protect them from the alien empire, or would it be humanity's downfall? The air on Earth was thick with the tension of an impending storm. The probability weapon had proven itself in the first battle, but the alien empire, unwilling to accept defeat, was preparing for a second strike, one that would crush humanity's newfound hope. This time, they were bringing everything they had. The sky above Earth was filled with shadows as the alien fleet emerged from the depths of space. Their ships were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, massive warships, gleaming with advanced technology. They were equipped with cloaking devices that made them nearly invisible to Earth's radar. It was a tactic that had been devastatingly effective in previous battles. The aliens had learned from their mistakes and were determined to wipe out humanity once and for all. Dr. Elena Bonner stood in the control room, her fingers gripping the edge of the console as she watched the alien fleet appear on the monitors. The probability weapon had given them a brief moment of victory, but now it was time to face the full might of the alien empire. Her mind raced. The aliens had brought their most powerful forces to bear on Earth, and they wouldn't hold back this time. They knew that if they didn't destroy humanity now, the probability weapon could shift the balance of power for good. "Activate the upgrades," Dr. Bonner commanded, her voice steady despite the growing sense of urgency. The team had been working around the clock, perfecting the probability weapon. They had learned from the first battle, and now, they had enhanced its capabilities. The device was no longer just a tool for shifting the odds, it had become an intricate, near-perfect system that could predict and counter every alien move with precision. Her fingers danced over the controls, and the weapon hummed to life. This time, the upgrades allowed the team to anticipate the alien fleet's every move. The moment the enemy ships entered Earth's atmosphere, the probability weapon would predict their actions and find a way to stop them. It wasn't just about defense anymore, it was about turning the tables on the alien empire and making them regret underestimating humanity. But the aliens weren't going to make this easy. As soon as their ships became visible, they unleashed a barrage of devastating weapons, targeting Earth's cities with pinpoint accuracy. The first wave hit hard, orbital bombardments rained down, destroying entire districts. The alien forces had clearly learned from their previous failure. They had come prepared to break Earth's spirit once and for all. The first explosions shook the ground. Dr. Bonner's team scrambled to activate the weapon's defenses, but this time, the aliens had adapted. Their ships were more advanced, their cloaking technology nearly impossible to detect. They launched their attack from multiple angles, leaving Earth's defenses with little time to react. For a moment, it seemed like the probability weapon might fail. The stakes had never been higher, and the weight of it all pressed heavily on Dr. Bonner's chest. But then, something remarkable happened. The weapon kicked in. Dr. Bonner had upgraded the probability device to anticipate and counter every move the aliens made. She could see it in real time. Every ship's trajectory, every shot fired, and every mistake the aliens made as their strategy unraveled. The probability weapon shifted the odds in humanity's favor once again. It wasn't about brute force, it was about finding the right moment to strike, to shift the balance. One alien ship, which had fired a powerful energy blast aimed at a major city, suddenly veered off course. The probability weapon had altered its trajectory, causing it to miss its target by mere inches. Another ship, which had tried to launch a devastating bombardment on Earth's defense satellites, lost all power in its engines, sending it spiraling out of control. The weapon's influence was rippling through the fleet, forcing the aliens to make desperate, uncoordinated moves. The alien commanders were in chaos. They couldn't understand what was happening. Their ships were malfunctioning, their weapons misfiring, their attacks becoming less and less effective as the probability weapon disrupted every move they made. The aliens were on the back foot, struggling to adapt to a situation they hadn't anticipated. But the true cost of this battle came with a heavy price. As the conflict raged on, Dr. Bonner's mind was not only on the probability weapon but on her soldiers. The team had been working together as one, but the battle had reached its breaking point. The alien ships were relentless, and despite their technological advantage, the humans were still vastly outnumbered. One of her soldiers, Alex, a brilliant strategist and one of Dr. Bonner's closest allies, was leading a critical mission to take out an alien command ship. But as the hours dragged on, the odds were against them. Alex had always been the kind of soldier who believed in the cause. He had never hesitated to charge into battle, believing that humanity's survival depended on them giving everything they had. But this time, as he led his squad into the heart of enemy territory, the outcome wasn't certain. The alien defenses were too strong. The alien ships, now in full retreat, had set up a deadly perimeter around their flagship. The humans fought bravely, using the probability weapons enhancements to stay one step ahead. But despite their best efforts, they couldn't prevent the inevitable. Alex's ship was hit, and the transmission cut out. The soldiers tried to fight on, but they were overwhelmed. Alex and his team, heroes who had given everything for humanity, were lost. The news of Alex's death hit Dr. Bonner like a blow to the chest. She had known the risks, but it didn't make the loss any easier. Alex had been more than a soldier, he had been a friend, a comrade, and a symbol of humanity's determination to survive. She stared at the screens, her heart heavy with grief, but her resolve hardened. "This ends now," Dr. Bonner muttered to herself, the words echoing in her mind. The loss of Alex and so many others only fueled her determination. She knew that humanity could win, but only if they pushed harder than ever before. The aliens had underestimated Earth, but now, with the power of the probability weapon, the tables had turned. In the heat of battle, the weapons of Earth's defenders, ships and soldiers alike, were hitting their targets with increasing accuracy. The aliens had no time to regroup. The probability weapon had done its work, and now, the humans were taking control. What had once seemed like an impossible struggle was turning into a hard-won victory. The alien fleet was beginning to falter. The odds had shifted, and now, the humans had the upper hand. But there was still a long way to go. The alien command ship, the source of the fleet's power, was still operational. If they could destroy it, the battle would be won. But the journey ahead was fraught with danger, and Dr. Bonner knew that losing any more soldiers could mean the end of everything. With Alex's memory in her heart and the probability weapon in her hands, Dr. Bonner was more determined than ever. The final assault was coming, and this time, the human forces would not be denied. The situation had grown even more dire. Earth's defenders had managed to land a few significant blows against the alien empire, but Commander Valkar, the ruthless leader of the invading force, was not someone to be defeated so easily. He had seen the potential of the probability weapon and had already begun preparing a counterattack that could dismantle everything humanity had worked so hard to achieve. On his flagship, the Titanus, Valkar stood in the war room, surrounded by his top strategists and officers. His sharp eyes glinted as he observed the data streaming across the holographic screens. The probability weapon had disrupted his plans, but he was no fool. He knew that humanity's unpredictable victory could only be temporary. The weapon had changed the course of the battle for a while, but the tides of war were shifting. The humans may have had an edge, but they weren't invincible. "I will not be outwitted by a primitive weapon," Valkar declared coldly, his voice echoing throughout the chamber. "It's time to take this weapon out of the equation." Valkar's mind turned toward his greatest asset, his artificial intelligence technology. Unlike anything the humans had, his AIs were powerful, advanced systems capable of processing vast amounts of data at unimaginable speeds. These AI-controlled ships could adapt faster than any human soldier could think. With these machines at his command, Valkar was confident that no matter how sophisticated the probability weapon was, it could be neutralized. Valkar gave the order, and his fleet of AI-controlled warships began to deploy. Their mission was clear: disrupt the signal of the probability weapon. If they could block its ability to predict the alien fleet's movements, the humans would once again be left vulnerable, and Earth's defenses would fall. Back on Earth, Dr. Bonner was watching the screens intently. The probability weapon, which had once been a beacon of hope, was now showing signs of malfunction. The aliens' AI systems were overwhelming the signal, and Earth's tactics were becoming less effective. As the probability weapon flickered on the screen, Dr. Bonner's heart sank. No, she whispered to herself, a cold sweat forming on her brow. It can't be. The weapon's readings were becoming erratic. The probabilities were no longer accurate, and the aliens had adapted to the weapon's interference. The once promising technology seemed to be failing them, and the impact on Earth's defenses was already apparent. Alien ships, once disabled by the weapon's precision, were now attacking with greater force. The humans were losing their advantage. As the news of the weapon's malfunction spread, panic began to set in. Dr. Bonner could hear the worried murmurs of her team. Soldiers stationed in various sectors of Earth's defense perimeter reported alien ships breaking through, unchallenged by the probability weapon's guidance. Earth was on the brink of losing everything they had fought for. For a moment, Dr. Bonner felt the weight of the world bearing down on her shoulders. The weapon had been humanity's last hope, and now, it seemed as though it might be their downfall. Could they survive without it? But then, something inside Dr. Bonner shifted. She had come this far, she couldn't give up now. She looked at the faces of her team members, each one desperate, but also resolute. They had all sacrificed so much to get to this point, and she wasn't about to let it all go to waste. "We can't give up," she said, her voice unwavering. "We still have the advantage. We just need to outsmart them." Dr. Bonner immediately set to work with her team, designing a countermeasure. If Valkar's AI systems could predict their actions, then they needed to change the game entirely. Instead of relying on the probability weapon alone, they would adapt their strategy. They needed to find a way to make their moves unpredictable, to create chaos that the AI systems couldn't process. "Let's use their own technology against them," Dr. Bonner suggested. "We can scramble the AI's ability to predict our moves by sending out false signals, misdirecting their calculations." It was a risky plan, but it was their only option. The team got to work immediately, reprogramming the system to send out bursts of misinformation. They hacked into Earth's communication networks, sending out a series of disorienting signals to confuse the alien AI systems. They couldn't stop the invasion, but they could delay it long enough to buy the humans some time to regroup. As the new strategy took effect, the alien fleet began to slow. Valkar's ships hesitated, their once impeccable coordination falling apart. Their AIs were now struggling to process the false signals, and their movements became erratic. The carefully crafted war machine Valkar had built was starting to lose its edge. However, this didn't mean the battle was won. In fact, it was only beginning. As the alien fleet struggled, Valkar himself grew furious. He understood that the humans had outplayed him, at least for now, but he would not allow Earth to continue to resist. He activated the second phase of his plan. "I want every ship to push forward," Valkar ordered, his voice laced with fury. "Destroy everything." Dr. Bonner knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger, more brutal assault. The aliens were going to hit Earth with everything they had, and there was no guarantee that their makeshift strategy would hold for long. The clock was ticking. "Everyone, brace for impact," Dr. Bonner said, her eyes steely with determination. "This is the moment we fight or die." As the probability weapon stabilized slightly, the humans began to fight back, but they knew they were running out of time. The alien ships were pushing harder, and the false signals were no longer enough to stop them. Now, Earth's defenders had to rely on the human spirit, the same spirit that had carried them this far. In the midst of all the chaos, Dr. Bonner remembered her soldiers, who had fought with everything they had, especially Alex, who had made the ultimate sacrifice. His face flashed in her mind as she thought about how far they had come, and how much they had lost. This wasn't just a battle for Earth, it was a battle for their future, for everything they had ever known. With a deep breath, Dr. Bonner turned to her team. "We fight for each other. We fight for Earth. And we fight for everyone we've lost." In that moment, the humans knew that the battle ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was a battle they would face with all their strength. And, for the first time in a long while, there was a glimmer of hope that they might just pull through. The final moments had arrived. Earth's skies were filled with the roar of approaching alien ships, and in the vast emptiness of space, the last stand was about to unfold. Valkar's fleet, having already devastated Earth's outer defenses, positioned itself for the final blow. His strategy was ruthless: wipe out humanity completely and establish his empire's dominance across the galaxy. But Earth's defenders, led by Dr. Elena Bonner, were not willing to go down without a fight. In her lab, the gleaming lights of the probability weapon flickered to life. It had been upgraded to its ultimate form, a technological marvel that no one had ever imagined possible. What had once been a crude attempt to predict alien movements had now evolved into a weapon capable of turning the tide of any battle, controlling the very fate of the conflict. Dr. Bonner stood in front of the weapon, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. She knew this was it, the final chance to push back the alien threat and secure humanity's future. There would be no second chances. The weapon was ready, and so were her soldiers. "Activate the weapon," Dr. Bonner commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around her. Her team obeyed without hesitation, their fingers moving across the control panels with practiced precision. The weapon hummed to life, its core glowing with a bright blue energy. For a moment, everything seemed to stand still. The probability field generated by the weapon expanded outward, touching every ship, every soldier, and every moment of time within Earth's atmosphere. The air crackled with anticipation as the weapon prepared to make its final impact on the battlefield. Far above, in the void of space, the alien fleet hung like a dark storm cloud, its ships poised to strike. Valkar stood on his flagship, the Titanus, watching with cold, calculating eyes as Earth's defenses appeared to falter. He knew the humans had their weapon, but he had already accounted for that. His fleet, with its advanced AI, had adapted to the unpredictable attacks before. This time, he was confident they would crush the humans once and for all. But he wasn't counting on the upgrades humanity had made to the probability weapon. As the alien fleet surged forward, the weapon's effects began to take hold. Suddenly, the battlefield shifted. The weapon's power reached out and began to alter the very flow of time and space. The first alien ship fired its weapons, but before the blast could reach its target, the probability field calculated its trajectory and shifted it to the side. The enemy ship's attack missed, but it wasn't just a miss, it was a complete misfire, its weapons now useless. The alien fleet paused in shock, not understanding what had happened. At that moment, Dr. Bonner's voice came over the comms, calm yet commanding: "Predict every move. Turn the tide." Her team had perfected the weapon, now, it was time for the ultimate test. The probability field began predicting each alien move before it even happened, sending the data directly to Earth's commanders, who used it to counter every attack with perfect precision. It wasn't just about predicting the alien fleet's movements, it was about controlling the battle entirely. The human ships, which had once struggled to hold their ground, now maneuvered with the grace of dancers, evading every blast and countering with deadly force. They struck alien warships with pinpoint accuracy, disabling their weapons and tearing through their shields. The battle in space was becoming a one-sided slaughter. Humanity was no longer fighting an uphill battle, it was on the offensive. Meanwhile, on the ground, Earth's soldiers stormed alien positions with renewed confidence. The probability weapon had given them the upper hand, allowing them to predict and counter alien movements in real time. The once overwhelming alien forces now found themselves outclassed and outgunned at every turn. Dr. Bonner's eyes never left the screens as she watched the results of the weapon's power unfold. The energy of the weapon seemed to surge within her, driving her to focus even more intently. But the tension was far from over. Valkar, witnessing the unfolding chaos, knew his fleet was crumbling, and he would not stand for it. He had one final move in his arsenal, one that could wipe out humanity in a single strike. "Prepare the planetary bombardment," Valkar ordered, his voice cold with rage. "If we can't win the battle, we will destroy their planet. Burn it to the ground." The alien ships began their descent toward Earth's surface, preparing to launch devastating orbital bombardments that would reduce entire cities to rubble. The final blow was coming, and humanity seemed powerless to stop it. But Dr. Bonner was ready. She knew this was the moment they had been preparing for. She quickly recalculated the incoming threats, analyzing every possible angle. The probability weapon was more than just a tool, it was a guide, a way to see the future and bend it to humanity's will. "Countermeasure deployed," Dr. Bonner said, and just like that, the weapon calculated the perfect response. A wave of energy surged from the core of the probability weapon, creating a protective shield around Earth. It wasn't just a shield, it was a reflection of the weapon's power, turning the alien bombardment back on itself. The first wave of orbital bombs exploded in mid-air, redirected by the weapon's calculated field. The shockwave rippled through space, knocking the alien fleet off course. Valkar watched in horror as his last-ditch effort to destroy humanity was thwarted. His ships began to lose control, their weapon systems failing under the influence of the probability weapon. Desperation filled Valkar's eyes as he realized his fleet was doomed. He knew his end had come. It was time for the final confrontation. Dr. Bonner's face appeared on the screen of Valkar's flagship, her expression calm but filled with righteous fury. "You've taken so much from us," she said, her voice echoing in the coldness of space. "But today, we fight back." Valkar, defeated but not broken, boarded his personal warship, the Venator, and launched into space to face Dr. Bonner directly. The two leaders would now settle the fate of the galaxy in a battle that would decide the outcome of the war. The final confrontation was intense. Valkar's ship was equipped with the best technology the alien empire had to offer, but Dr. Bonner had something far more powerful, the knowledge of humanity's strength, its resilience, and the power of the probability weapon. Their ships clashed in space, their weapons firing at close range, creating explosions that lit up the darkness. The stakes couldn't be higher. Valkar fought with every ounce of his strength, but Dr. Bonner, fueled by the memories of fallen soldiers like Alex, fought with a burning determination to protect her people. The battle reached its apex when Dr. Bonner made the final, decisive move. Using the probability weapon's ability to predict and alter Valkar's attack trajectory, she turned his own weapons against him. His ship's systems malfunctioned as his missiles veered off course, striking his own fleet instead. Valkar's flagship erupted in a fiery explosion, and with that, the alien empire's command structure was destroyed. Dr. Bonner's ship remained intact, and the remaining alien forces, leaderless and broken, surrendered or fled. The final battle had been won. Humanity had triumphed against impossible odds, not because of advanced technology or brute force, but because of their indomitable will to survive and the power of a weapon that could control fate itself. As the dust settled, Dr. Bonner looked out at the stars, a sense of relief washing over her. Earth was safe, but the cost had been high. Many lives had been lost, and the scars of war would remain. But in the end, humanity had proven that no force, no empire, no technology could defeat them. They had conquered the impossible and stood as a beacon of hope for the future. And as the survivors looked to the stars, they knew this was just the beginning of a new era, an era where humanity would shape its own destiny. The battle was over. The war that had defined humanity's future, a war against an alien empire that seemed unbeatable, had reached its conclusion. But as the dust settled, Earth was not the ruined, desolate planet the invaders had expected. Instead, it stood tall, defiant, proud, and victorious. The alien fleet, once an overwhelming force that threatened to wipe out Earth, was now in disarray. Most of their ships lay broken or in flames, scattered across the vast emptiness of space. The remaining alien forces, realizing they had no hope of winning, had made a shocking decision: they would surrender. The same alien empire that had once believed their technological superiority and tactics would crush humanity now found themselves at the mercy of a race they had underestimated. At the forefront of this surrender was none other than Valkar, the alien commander who had orchestrated the invasion. He was a leader whose confidence had been unshakable, a ruler who had believed his victory was inevitable. Yet now, standing on the command deck of his flagship, surrounded by his fallen comrades and the wreckage of his fleet, Valkar had no choice but to accept the truth. His once glorious empire was on the verge of collapse, and humanity had proven to be a far more formidable opponent than he had ever imagined. Valkar's eyes, once filled with arrogance and rage, now reflected the crushing weight of defeat. His forces had failed, and now he faced the ultimate humiliation, surrendering to the very species he had sought to annihilate. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but even his superior technology and war tactics had not been enough to overcome humanity's resolve, the heart of their resistance, and the overwhelming power of their probability weapon. "This is over," Valkar muttered under his breath, his voice hollow and defeated. The finality of his words echoed through his command ship, and for the first time in a long while, he understood what true defeat felt like. Back on Earth, celebrations were muted. Though the war was won, the cost had been enormous. Dr. Bonner, who had led humanity's charge against the alien invaders, stood silently by the window of her lab, looking out at the skyline of a world that had narrowly escaped destruction. The weight of victory settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. She had led them to this moment, but it had come at a price. The lives of countless soldiers, including Alex, had been sacrificed in the battle for Earth's survival. The memory of Alex's final moments, the sacrifice he had made for humanity, still haunted her. She felt a quiet hand on her shoulder, and turning, she saw Alex's closest friend and fellow soldier, Sergeant Liam, standing behind her. "We did it," Liam said quietly, his voice tinged with sadness. "Alex would be proud of you, document." Dr. Bonner nodded, but her eyes betrayed the emotions she had kept hidden. "It doesn't feel like victory, not without him," she admitted, her voice thick with grief. Liam's expression softened. "He gave his life for something bigger. We all did. And now it's over. Earth is safe." "Safe?" Dr. Bonner echoed, her gaze drifting toward the stars. "Safe from the aliens, yes. But can we ever truly be safe? What will we become now that we've won?" Liam gave her a reassuring smile. "We'll become what we've always been. Strong. We'll rebuild. Together." Meanwhile, Valkar, now alone on his flagship, began to transmit a message to Earth's government. He knew that surrender was the only option left for him, and despite his pride, he had no choice but to face the reality of his failure. On Earth, the leaders gathered in a secure meeting room. They had anticipated this moment, but even so, the reality of the alien commander's message was jarring. Valkar was asking for terms, offering to surrender in exchange for the lives of his remaining soldiers. The tension in the room was palpable as Earth's leaders discussed how to handle this unprecedented situation. Dr. Bonner, though physically exhausted, was called in to assist with the decision. As the scientist who had developed the probability weapon, her insights were invaluable. "We have to make the right call," she said, standing before the group. "This is our chance to end this war, but we have to show mercy. Victory doesn't always mean destruction." She wasn't just speaking about the aliens, she was speaking about humanity as well. The weapon, though a powerful tool, had reminded her that power could corrupt. Mercy, she believed, was the true measure of victory. The question now was how to treat their defeated enemies, those who had caused so much pain and suffering, yet now stood at their mercy. After a tense silence, the leaders agreed to offer Valkar and his remaining forces a chance to live. The terms were simple: they would be allowed to leave Earth and return to their homeworlds in peace, but they would never again be allowed to invade or threaten Earth or any other human colonies. Dr. Bonner, despite the anger she felt over the loss of so many, knew that this was the only way forward. It wasn't just about surviving, it was about building a new world, one where humanity's strength and resilience could shine. "We've shown them our strength," she said firmly. "But we will show them our mercy, too." Valkar, hearing the terms, hesitated. He had expected the humans to demand his fleet's destruction, to exterminate his race for their crimes. Instead, he was faced with an offer of mercy. It was a bitter irony: in his hubris, he had underestimated humanity's compassion, just as he had underestimated their strength. He had come to Earth to destroy them, but in the end, it was humanity's mercy that would define them as the true victors. The transmission ended, and the news spread across the globe. Earth's victory was complete, but the consequences of the war would linger. The alien forces, humbled and defeated, withdrew into the darkness of space, their empire broken and their hopes of conquest dashed. In the aftermath, Dr. Bonner walked alone through the fields outside her lab, reflecting on the war's toll. The world was slowly healing, but there was still much work to be done. She would honor the memories of the fallen soldiers, Alex, Liam, and so many others who had given their lives for Earth's survival. And she would continue her work, always remembering that humanity's true power lay not in its weapons, but in its spirit. As she gazed at the horizon, she felt a sense of resolve settle in her heart. "We've won, but this is just the beginning," she whispered to herself. Her journey was far from over. With the war behind them, Earth was ready to rebuild, to look to the future and explore the stars once more. And for the first time in a long while, Dr. Bonner allowed herself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, humanity's best days were ahead of them.